5-10 years ago, the common way to sell was the blueprint, the benefits blueprint. Everybody was doing the benefits blueprint. And I remember thinking, oh, well, that's pretty cool. And as I was doing it, I was like, this is just not how I operate. This was so outside of me. And anytime I tried to get into a program that wanted me to do everything in a certain way, it never really worked because no two clients are exactly the same. You really need to listen to them and adapt to them. And just because you can still follow a program and a process and be thoughtful in your procedure, but if the guy down the street's doing a blueprint, why am I going to bring in a blueprint too?
Yeah.
Nothing special.
Every employee benefits broker and industry partner dreams of achieving great things. The bad news is that success doesn't come easy. The good news is that you don't have to do it alone. Welcome to the Benefits Sales Pro Show. I am your host, Ryan James Miller, and my goal is to engage industry professionals who have found success and are willing to share it with others. So give us 15 minutes and hear how today's guest has achieved great things so you can too. All right, what's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the show. We are here today and there is fire on the other end of the screen. I love the fact that the only way that you can listen to these is by watching them on YouTube, because that's the only place that we are intentionally, because I want you to pay attention. You've heard me say that before. If you're listening via audio, you can just check out, but here you have to be tuned in. And why would you not want to be tuned in to listen to Nancy Giacolone speak about sales, about success, about business? If you don't know Nancy, that's another problem that you have, and you're going to have to figure that out. Nancy has been the founder, president of Olympic Crest Insurance up in the Pacific Northwest for a little while. We're not going to say how long because we don't want to brag about how much experience she has. But for now, Nancy, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me, Ryan.
All right, so we get to go right into the war of sales. So what is your opinion on sales in general in the benefits world today?
I think people talk too much and listen too little.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening to another episode of the podcast.
I think we covered it.
That was so freaking good. And I love you guys didn't hear offline. We said that I was going to have a hard time drawing Nancy's real opinion right out. That's a total joke, because if you know her, she's very direct in the kindest of ways. Okay, so why do you say that? Like, what's a big mistake that you feel like your peers are making as it relates to talking all the time and not listening?
Well, I mean, I think it goes back to so many things. They're so invested in telling their story. They don't take the time to listen to what the prospect or their potential customer, what their needs really are, or where their pain points really are. They come in with a sales presentation and they're locked and loaded. They've practiced it. It's great, but the client doesn't care.
Yeah.
The same thing goes to, our websites that we did for years. It talked about how great we were, how many years we were in business. Nobody cares. They care about their business problems, their challenges. And if we take the time to listen to them and then address those, we're going to have a much easier time making sales.
Yeah. Okay. So I know you, obviously we know each other well. We're friends. I love to be able to say that about you. And you have a wonderful personality that is very engaging. You're someone that's great to get to know. So how do you balance, though, putting that out there? Because you want to be upfront, right? We say people do business with people that they know, like, and trust. So we want that to happen. So how are you balancing putting yourself out there, telling your story to some degree without throwing it up, and at the same time speaking to what the prospects want to hear?
Well, I think it is a balancing act, and I think that you put that really well. In a one-on-one situation, it's really about, first of all, determining what are their pain points, what are their needs, and then taking your solutions that you already have, you already know are great solutions, and sorting through them in your mental Rolodex and doling them out to them. Sometimes one at a time. You might have 10 fantastic solutions, but don't give them all at once, because again, you're going to overload them or overwhelm them, and they're never going to make a decision. One of the things that I used to do early in my career was were very successful at selling voluntary benefits, but I would never do it in the way the voluntary reps wanted me to do it. I would put one or two options with a checkbox. That was it. They got one or two, period. And we had fantastic participation because there weren't too many decisions for somebody to make all at once. So I think that that's a really key component is don't ask them to make too many decisions at one time.
God, that just makes me think of the Cheesecake Factory right away.
Yeah.
Right? Like you open up that you don't even want to open the menu because it's so inundating. I go in thinking I know what I want. And then I open that up and I freeze.
It's too much.
It is. It's absolutely too much. I can't eat that much. That would be really bad for my health. Okay. So for you specifically, as you look back on this wonderful career that you have had, what is one big mistake you've made in selling yourself and selling your business that you now look back on and you were like, ugh, like I'm glad I learned from that?
I think my biggest mistake was trying to be like everybody else. I would see other people that were doing things and having success. And I would think, well, maybe I'm supposed to do it that way. And so I did not stay true to my own beliefs, my own tactics, my own methods. And every time I did that, you just feel icky. You just feel like you're not yourself. And it comes across because you rarely make a sale doing something that's not authentic to you.
Yeah. I mean, it is. It's so hard, right? You're already just at face value. You already look like everybody else because you're slanging the same products and services that they all do. And then on top of that, then you're trying to be like somebody else. And so you give yourself no unique competitive advantage at all.
Yeah, I remember, I don't know, it's probably been 5-10 years ago. The common way to sell was the blueprint. The benefits blueprint. Everybody was doing the benefits blueprint. And I remember thinking, oh, well, that's pretty cool. And as I was doing it, I was like, this is just not how I operate. This was so outside of me. And anytime I tried to get into a program that wanted me to do everything in a certain way, it never really worked because no two clients are exactly the same. You really need to listen to them and adapt to them. And just because you can still follow a program and a process and be thoughtful in your procedure. But if the guy down the street's doing a blueprint, why am I going to bring in a blueprint too?
Yeah.
Nothing special.
That's so funny that you said. So Chad Jenkins, who actually is the creator of the blueprint, him and his brother, Chad and I are good buddies. I've known Chad for years. And it's interesting because I guess in his defense, so many people have ripped that thing off and they just create a cookie cutter version of it, thinking that is the unique competitive advantage. So I think it's so interesting that you saw that yourself. It's like, why the hell am I going to do this just because everybody else is doing it? Like, if it's not your own, what's the point?
Yeah. And I mean, no disrespect because it was a really great idea.
Yeah.
A really nice format. It just wasn't me.
Yeah. It's so good.
It didn't make sense for me to do that.
Okay. So I think that's one really good thing for people to take away from this is just because it works for somebody else doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work for you. You need to figure out what works best for you.
It does.
So, okay. So then to follow up on that, so then how have you created a good set of guidelines or perspective around how you decide what you are going to do in terms of your approach to sales? Like, how do you end up getting to a place you're like, this is aligned with who I am. This is aligned with what I want to do. So this is what I'm going to go with.
Well, can you see all the burn marks on my hands where I touched the flame a little too closely and they're doing the wrong thing? Trial and freaking error. That's how I did it. But, I really found that for me, and again, I hear this a lot that, the relationship sale is dead. People just want to buy something that's new and innovative. And I think that there's a balance there between creating a relationship and bringing value with your products and your knowledge. And it's how you find, for me, it's how I find that balance that works the best. When they know me, like me, trust me, maybe they're not going golfing with me, but they know me enough to have a conversation and all that good stuff. And then I can have that better conversation with them. And we can start to peel back some of the layers and say, well, what if we do this? And then the next time we can say, but then what if we do this too? And that's when you start to create an interactive relationship, a two-way relationship that really provides results.
God, it's so good. I want to affirm publicly something that I feel like there are very few of your peers that do well that you have done. And we've had this conversation a lot. So I feel like there are few people that are truly able to meet their client where they are at, to serve them well, and then to help them see the right path to the future.
Right.
And just to explain that for people. So, Nancy, you run around in a lot of circles, and a lot of people do, where it's all about disruption and innovation, and we blow every plan up and we do something different. Like I've had David Contorno on this podcast, and David and I talk about, he's like the master of that. And that's great. And that works. The problem is it alienates so many employers out there that just need you to care for them the way that they are, but not to leave them the way that they are, to continue to slowly transform the future. And so this is kind of an off-script question, but how have you been able to stand your ground in an industry, in an environment, because you run around in those circles, like the majority of your peers are at least saying, though they may not be doing, they're saying that they're all about the most innovative, the most disruptive. And so how have you blocked that out? I know you do that with some employers, but how have you blocked that out and really stayed in your lane and said, I'm just going to do what they need?
Because I really care about people. I think that's a core personality, trait of mine. And I really care about my clients. And if I went down that path and alienated them and left them with something that was worse than they have now, I would feel bad because they weren't ready to go this direction. So I leave them over here. It wouldn't align with my values. I really feel that I have to take care of them where they're at now. I can continue bringing new ideas to them. I can continue showing them things. And at some point they're going to be ready. Maybe not even with me, but they'll know Nancy was talking to us about these things 10 years ago or 5 years ago, or you know what, we're finally ready to do this. And my job is to raise the awareness, but not to alienate the client in the process. And so
I hope you heard that. I hope that stop, rewind, and re-listen to that. I think that is so incredibly valuable, is we cannot alienate our client or our prospective client, even when we know that they've made a bad decision or they're in a bad spot, right?
Right.
Gosh, it's so good.
Because they might be ready 6 months from now or a year from now or 5 years from now. But it's planting that seed and it's continually watering that knowledge so that they become more comfortable with the concepts. And at some point they say, you know what? Okay, I'm ready to try this. But the one thing I will say is that in the smaller group market, and I'm going to define that as under 100 lives, employers with under 100 lives, which some people would still consider large. Doing some of the innovative things is possible, but it's not always right. Period.
That's so good. Okay. Maybe that's what you're going to tell yourself in this last question. But okay. So final question would be, what would one piece of advice be that you would give to your younger self to have your younger self been more successful earlier on selling?
I think the biggest thing was to know that I was good enough. Because when I first started, I was, started my agency and it was very tiny. And I really compared myself to the large agencies. And when clients would say, how many employees do you have? I thought it mattered, but it really doesn't matter. But in my mind, it mattered. And so instantly I felt like I wasn't good enough. And I think that a lot of the steam and the confidence would go out of some of those conversations. But now I will confidently answer, we have 5 employees. There'll be a team of 2 or 3 people working on your account, the same as there would be at the, ABC jumbo agency. You're going to get the same level, if not better attention with our smaller agency.
That's so good. Okay. So how do you give that little piece of advice to somebody right now then that doesn't have the confidence and is afraid to just lean into their values like you lean into yours, that's afraid to do the right thing, even though they're being told not to do the right thing, or even to hear just even the confidence to believe that they're good enough?
Get a coach.
Okay.
I'm not kidding about that, actually. I mean, granted, that is definitely a shout out to Ryan. He's a fantastic coach. I have hired him. But that is one of the best things that you can do for yourself. Don't wait for your company to do it for you. If it's something that you yourself know that you need help with, find that somebody that can give you that support and that can bolster you up. And then if you can't afford a coach, or you're in that position where you can't do it, ask a friend, role play, go talk to the smallest account and try it out. Do it with your least amount of risk first, and then start building up.
So good. Okay. On that note, for you guys that are out there listening, she may not have enough time to take your call, but if you have questions, Nancy is a great person to reach out to. She is very generous with her time, as generous as she can be running an agency and serving clients. But I agree, collaboration is so key, and reaching out to peers and colleagues and asking questions. So we'll pop her information into the show notes down there. Please, please, please reach out to her. Nancy, thank you so much. I love you dearly. That is not a word I say if I don't mean it. And you know how much I mean that. I respect you as a human being, as a business leader. You have been so successful. And so it's been a pleasure to get you to share some of the greatest successes with everybody else. So thank you.
Thank you. It was a lot of fun.
Awesome. All right, guys, as always, questions, comments, concerns, you know where to find me. Make sure that you visit thebenefitsalespro.com. If you want to check out more about what we're doing, upcoming episodes and things like that, go out there, smash them goals.
Thanks so much for checking out this episode of the Benefits Sales Pro Show. Please make sure to like this episode, subscribe to the channel, and share it with your friends. I also invite you to check out thebenefitsalespro.com. We have created a digital platform that includes both live and on-demand video trainings, quick tips, and a multitude of branding, prospecting, and selling resources that are downloadable for you today. So visit www.thebenefitsalespro.com and grab a free copy of the High Performance Sales Playbook while you're there.